Good question to start off with. My driving force in football has always been my ambition to succeed, both as a player, as a coach, and now as a manager. And I had the opportunity at Hull City back in 2006, 2007. It was a good opportunity. It was one that I recognised from being outside the club when I first came to it, that it was a small parochial kind of club that hadn't ever played in the top flight in English football, and yet I always believed that it was one of the biggest clubs in Yorkshire. And when I arrived at the football club, I came as a coach and not as the manager. But having been given the chance to take the club as the manager, I quickly realised that there was an ambition, not just from the management team above me, but also the players and more importantly the supporters. And I think that's the key. You know, whenever you can get as a manager, whenever you can get on a wavelength with your supporters and understanding what they actually want, not just from a football club, but from winning things, from an ambition. Once you're on that same page, it's very, very, I wouldn't say easy, but it is very, very, it's a certain situation that you can produce magic. You can actually win things, you can actually go on to achieve things because you're all singing from the same hymn sheet. And that's what we did at Hull City, and it was a great achievement. You know, from my personal perspective, I always wanted to manage in the top flight in England, and I got that opportunity with Hull City, and unfortunately we didn't just achieve that, we actually managed to succeed in the Premier League as well and stayed in the Premier League, beating teams like Arsenal and, you know, having great days against Spurs and some of the biggest clubs in the world. So it was something that I always wanted to do as a young footballer. I always wanted to play at the top flight, but I never got the chance to. But as a coach and a manager, to get the chance to manage at the top level was just a dream come true for me. Preferred style of play. A lot of people have problems with styles of play. I think an awful lot of different styles of football have come out of Spanish, from Spanish football clubs, from French football clubs, from English football clubs. And I always believe that you have to find a way to win the game. Now that can come in many guises. That can come in long ball, that can come in small, short passes. It could come in an ambition where the team was concerned. But I always believe it's a group mentality. And my job for me as a coach is to get my information that I've got as an experienced man, get it across to every player, that every player now goes across that white line and knows exactly what their job is in their given role. Now, regardless of what nationality, regardless of what background they come from, so long as they know that the information I'm giving them is winning information, then that style of football will come through. But I do want to play attractive, open, expansive football. I believe that when I first spoke to the owners and the people who run the football club, I think they've looked at me and had a look at my career as a manager, and I've often given young players a chance. I think over the course of my time as a manager, since 2005, I think I've given maybe 35, 36 players an opportunity, and that means give them a debut. What they do with that debut is now entirely up to them. You know, you don't just give a player a debut because you think that's the right thing to do. You give him it because he's good enough. And if there are good enough players in the Indian setup in Pune, then they will get the opportunity. And then once I've given them that opportunity, it's entirely up to them. But I don't think you get a greater satisfaction as a manager or a coach when you give a young player an opportunity and he takes it. A lot of young players don't take it, but the ones that do take it often go on to have great careers. And I think there's a great opportunity here with maybe 6 games to go in the league campaign, 6 very important games, 6 very winnable games, and 6 that we do really have to win. I'm not just going to give young players an opportunity if I don't think they can do it. They have to be able to do it, and I'll find that out on the training ground over the next 10, 15 days before the next game. It's going to be interesting for me. It's one of my ambitions as a coach, as a manager. When I first started getting the licenses, the badges, you know, learning my trade, I always wanted to manage abroad. I always wanted to go to a different country and sample a different culture. I always wanted to go and maybe sample a different language as well. But to be able to stand up there in front of a group of players and speak in English, in one language, and then we all have a common goal, that is going to be a key factor for me. I have to get that point of view across. I have to get that opinion across. I think maybe the interaction that I've had with Ian Hume before I came here, not only as a Pune City player, but also when we worked together at Preston North End, I think that's a key issue. I tried to sign Matt Mills last season when I was at Swindon Town. So these are two players that I can maybe use to get my information across if I don't think it's getting over there, you know. Coaching comes in many guises, you know. You talk to players, you put sessions on, you flip charts, you have video sessions, lots of many ways of getting your point of view across. But if you have players in there that understand you and believe you and pass that on to maybe the young Indian players or players from South America, then it can be a winning formula. I'm looking forward to working with the Indian players. I've heard lots about them. I have an assistant manager, Trevor Morgan, who I played with as a player and many years ago. And Trevor had his ambitions wanting to manage abroad, and he exercised them rights a lot earlier than I did. Now for me to hook up with Trevor and Trevor have this valid experience, and it has to be said, he's going to be a key component of any success that we have. He emphasised to me that he knows the Indian leagues, he knows the Indian players, and his contribution where the Indian players are concerned, I think is for me a key to any kind of success that we're going to have. I'm looking forward to working with them. I believe their work ethic's very good. I know there's many regions in India that the different characteristics from the Indian players will come out in different ways. And I'm looking forward to seeing that develop and working with it. It's probably the key component to any success that you have as an individual. When you look into the eye of the player that you're trying to teach, you're trying to educate, and you know that maybe it isn't going in, or maybe it is going in, whichever the case may be, you have to understand that he is thinking differently from you, and you have to find a way to communicate. He might have a different goal from you, and you have to find out what that goal is. So I think communication is so important. It's a key to any kind of success I'm going to have from an individual perspective, but mainly in a collective atmosphere. I think my communication skills will have to be improved all the way along, because it's the first time I've been abroad to manage. But that's the challenge I'm really looking forward to, you know, to manage somebody who really doesn't speak the same language as you. That is a key barrier that I'm looking forward to breaking down. Well, I think the first couple of days are sitting down with individuals, meeting them, talking to them on a one-to-one basis, then on a collective basis. I think the testing is important. You know, we have this is something I'm not used to, a mid-season break. In England, we don't have that mid-season break, so we have a pre-season normally, which consists of 4 or 5 weeks of training. This is a smaller pre-season, as it were, for me. But I think the testing, you know, finding out what the players have been up to over the last 3, 4, 5 weeks. It's been a festive season all over the world, you know. It's time for celebration, and maybe a little bit too much food, maybe a little bit too much drink, maybe a little bit too much celebration. All of that has to be now parked. It has to be understood that we need to start winning games of football as soon as we possibly can, and that will come in the next 2 to 3 weeks. I think I personally thrive on pressure. I think pressure, when you go into a game of football and there's nothing to play for, that's not my strength. You know, when you go into a game of football and there's everything to play for, I think that's when you'll see the best of Phil Brown, and hopefully we will see the best of Pune. I think the players will respond to my kind of coaching. I try to get a smile on players' faces, and the only key way to ever do that is to win games of football. So if you're preparing properly, if you're preparing well, and you know that is going to go into the next game and the next performance, and that game and that next performance is a positive one, then it makes it a little bit easier, but it's never easy. It's never easy. I do believe that I want to try and put smiles on people's faces, and I think the only way to do that is to win maybe 5, 6 games of football, and then hopefully we'll all be smiling at the end of the season. Believe that we're going to succeed. That's the only way. If you don't believe, then we're no good. We have to stay together, we have to trust each other, we have to believe in each other and believe that we're going to succeed.